take unknown phone calls at unknown hours that only normal people will call me. All my patients are on my phone. I always know if somebody calls me.
Okay, sorry for the delay. This week we're reading Parshat Chukat, and Chukat means a law that Hashem gives us that's beyond human understanding, something we can't fathom with our abilities, and all laws of purity and impurity are beyond logic. As Maimonides says, these are the things that we can't figure out with our minds. But among all those super rational laws, the one that takes the cake, the one that's far up beyond the other super rational laws, is the mitzvah of the red heifer. And why is it called the super rational law, the one that's far beyond all logic? One reason is because on the one hand, the red heifer, if you were involved in creating it, involved in making it, then in the process of creating it, you would become ritually impure. On the other hand, the ashes that you created by burning the red heifer and mixing it with water, those ashes have the power to purify people who are impure. That's why it's called a super rational law, or the super rational law, because it has this paradoxical impact. It makes pure those who are impure, and makes impure those who are pure. So we need to understand, number one, why is it that this mitzvah is the one that's needed to purify someone who is impure? We're not going to be able to purify someone who's impure unless we have this kind of thing. Why specifically for this kind of impurity of touching the dead body? Tmei meis. There are many kinds of impurity, and the only one that requires the red heifer is someone who was in contact with the dead body. So why specifically for someone who's in contact with the dead body is there this super rational element that's needed? Why isn't there the super rational element needed for other kinds of impurity? Why specifically someone who's been in contact with the dead body? So we have to understand first the spiritual meaning of tmei meis, of the dead body. It says in the Torah, "You who cleave to Hashem are alive." Hashem is warmth and life. Maybe I shouldn't say it that way. Being attached to Hashem brings warmth and life, and the fact that we find warmth and life in other arenas in life is just because Hashem wants us to have free choice. The real meaning of life is attachment to Hashem. The real meaning of warmth is attachment to Hashem. So, attachment to Hashem brings us life, brings us warmth. On the other hand, severing the bond with Hashem separates and kills a part of you. So, someone who is a dead body means that they have completely severed the connection to Hashem. There's no vestige of any life in this person, because as long as they haven't completely severed their bond with Hashem, so then you could hone in on the part of them that's still healthy, and with the healthy part, try to resurrect the parts which aren't healthy. Try to rejuvenate the rest of the person. And if a person has severed their bond with Hashem to such an extent that they've completely cut themselves off, so then it's not a good thing. It's seemingly something which is impossible to rectify. And that's why when Moses was told about the impurity of a dead body, it says that Moshe Rabbeinu's face became darkened. He was so upset by this condition, because he said to Hashem, how is it possible that someone's going to ever be purified from this kind of impurity? How can that be? It seems that it's just not possible to revert back to purity and holiness once you've been in this state of total separation. So Moshe Rabbeinu says to Hashem, I don't get it. How can this possibly be rectified? And God responded, this is a super rational law of the Torah. In other words, it's something that only I, Hashem, can do. It's something which indeed is super rational. It's something which indeed is infinite. You cannot figure this one out. It requires something that comes from Hashem's essence. It requires something that comes from a realm that's completely beyond all limitations to resurrect this person from his state of impurity, state of separation, state of detachment, state of insensitivity. His spiritual death is something that doesn't seem to be, cannot be rectified logically, and yet Hashem, from his very core, from beyond logic and reason, comes and helps his Jew and resurrects him. And that's why this mitzvah is called Chukat, the law of the Torah, the super rational law of the Torah. It's something which is super rational, something which is infinite. To make this kind of transformation in someone who has become so insensitive, it requires something that comes from a level which is super rational, Hashem's essence. As it says in the Talmud, Mit in Torah mitame, who is someone who could bring out purity from someone who is impure? Lo yachad, only Chiddush Aleilam, only Hashem Himself is able to produce purity from a state of total impurity. Mit in Torah mitame lo yachad, only Hashem could do this. So in order to bring this down to the world, in order to connect with this essence of Hashem, we need to do something ourselves to bring down this, to bring this down. What do we need to do? So that's the reason why this mitzvah has this phenomena of purifying those who are impure and purifying those who are pure. In order to connect to Hashem's infinity, we need to do something that's infinite. We have to go beyond ourselves, go beyond our self-interests, to go beyond our limitations, to go beyond our comfort zone. There are things that we like to do, things we don't like to do. In general, human beings like to do things which are good for them. Doing something which isn't good for you is something that a human being wouldn't want to do. But we do sometimes do things for others, which is hard for us, which hurts us, because we love them very much, because we care about them. But who do we care about? We care about people that we appreciate. What are people that we do not appreciate? What are people that not only do not appreciate, we disdain them, we loathe them, because their behavior just irks us. And so to go out and hurt yourself with such a person is not an easy thing, and not something that our logic would ever bring us to do. And that's exactly what the Torah says over here. A person's spiritually dead. He's spiritually completely detached. Whatever you think of as being okay spiritually, he's worse, far worse. He's completely separated. So you're thinking about someone who, even if our consciousness, even if on the purview of our mind, we're not using Torah as a yardstick to decide what is considered noble behavior. But nevertheless, any yardstick you're going to use, since the Torah, after all, is the source of all ethics, any yardstick you're going to use, this guy throws them all away. He is completely separated from Hashem, completely separated from normal ethical behavior. So you're not going to want to go and reach out to this person. And yet, Hashem says, I want you to do this. I want you to go out of the camp. I want you to go away from everything that you're comfortable with. I want you to take a cow, a red cow. My uncle, Rabbi Chaim Yosef and Mordechai Yaakov once told me that when he was studying in the yeshiva in Montreal, he was wearing a red sweater. And the great Kabbalist, the dean of the spiritual mentor of the yeshiva, Rabbi Greenglass, he says, no red sweaters. He says, why? He says, hey Gvuris. Hey Gvuris is a Kabbalistic term which means judgment. You want to get involved in Hashem's judgment. My uncle's like, what is that? He says, just don't wear it. Please don't wear it. I don't know. Anyway, so I'm not saying can't wear red sweaters, but definitely red represents judgment, concealment, and that's the red cow. It's getting involved with something which is low, and not only that, but more. you're going to go and you're going to lose something that you care about, your spirituality, whatever level of spirituality you do care about. I mean, everyone has. Our Yetzer Hara, the Talmud says, is compared to three things. It's compared to a passerby, it's compared to a guest, and compared to a resident. He tells you to do something wrong the first time, just passing by. Tells you to do it wrong the second time, and then you think, this is not bad. He's a guest. Is it a third time? Then you're like, this is a mitzvah, this is positive, he's a resident, this is already an okay thing. But nevertheless, we all have things that we're not comfortable with. We don't like doing. That for our spirituality, it's like, I know for myself, I don't like missing hearing the Torah reading on Monday and Thursday. Monday and Thursday, I want to hear the Torah reading. I don't want to miss that. I would rather miss breakfast than miss that. I don't know. It's a spiritual thing. It's a physical thing. Whatever I care about. So now, Torah says, take away your spirituality. Take away whatever you consider to be good, and push that away. And now you have to go and help someone else spiritually, and help someone who again is in this category of dead spiritually. So when you do that, you peel a layer. A part of you that you didn't know about before existed comes to the fore. Your very core, your essence, is revealed. Your yechida, the deepest part of your soul, is revealed in the process. Because in order to do this, you have to uncover your deepest bond with Hashem, to push away your whole ego, to push away your whole persona, and to go and to reach out to someone who you don't really like, and to help them in a way that you're going to lose something that's important to you spiritually. That takes a lot. And that's why this specifically is the key to purify this person. Because in order to purify this person, again, you have to connect to Hashem's essence. How to connect to Hashem's essence? You have to connect to your essence. You connect to your essence, then you connect to Hashem's essence. What activity can you do to connect to your essence? To do something which causes you to be impure, for the sake of someone else who is impure, make them pure. To think about a practical example, I mean, this is what all the Chabad emissaries are doing around the world. They're giving up their Monday and Thursday minions or whatever it is that they are keen on doing, and they're giving it away to help the John Goldsteins of Main Street USA, which some of them are leave much to be desired spiritually. And through this, the key is that they're traveling to do this. They're giving away a lot to do this. And by giving away so much, they're connecting with Hashem's essence, and that's why that's the pudding. That's the proof of the pudding. That's the secret ingredient in the Chabad emissaries. They're connecting to God's essence. Because they're connecting to God's essence, automatically there's some fire in what they're doing. There's some divine assistance in what they're doing. So this will help us understand another phenomenon about the red heifer. It says in the Torah that Avram Avinu said about himself, I am but dust and ashes. And the Talmud says, because Avram Avinu said, I am like dust and ashes, therefore he merited that his descendants would get two mitzvahs. The mitzvah of the sota water and the mitzvah of the red heifer. I'm dust like the dust of the sota water. I'm ashes like the ashes of the red heifer. What does Avram Avinu, his behavior, have to do with the red heifer and the ashes of the sota? It cannot be just because you use those same words. Dust gets dust and ashes gets ashes. There must be something about Avram Avinu and his humility that connects to these two mitzvahs, and now we understand what it is. First of all, let's look at Avram Avinu for a second. Avram Avinu, he cared deeply about his spirituality, about a connection to Hashem, and yet, when these guests came to his home, which he didn't know they were angels, he believed that they were Arabs who worshiped the dust under their feet, the lowest kind of idol worship, and yet what did he do? He's in the middle of the height of his spiritual career. He is now has the greatest revelation of Hashem he ever had in his life, and he leaves that revelation to go take care of his guests. These guests, which aren't from his purview, what he thought weren't very good people, and he left that. That shows a kind of humility that Rabbi Moshe had. He pushed everything aside to help those guests, and therefore, because of his humility, his descendants were given two mitzvahs, which also express humility. The mitzvah of the sota. Who is a sota? A woman who is suspect of being unfaithful to her husband, and she must have acted immodestly whether or not she was guilty, and therefore she is accused of being unfaithful. And what does her husband do? Her husband brings her to the Jewish court, and they give her this water, and they place the dust of the tabernacle into the water, and she must drink this. And not only that, they take not just the dust of the tabernacle, they take God's name himself, the name of God. They erase God's name, which in general is a prohibition. You're not allowed to erase God's name. You're not allowed to erase Hashem's name anytime. And yet they take God's name, they erase it in order to bring her back home to her husband. If she would have pled guilty, she wouldn't have gone back to her husband, and she wouldn't have got, nothing would happen. But she wants to go back to her husband. She says, I'm not guilty. So in order to bring her back to her husband, in order to help this lady, who is obviously not such a nice person, obviously not such a modest person, but in order for her husband to bring her back home, that we care about her so much, God says, erase my name. Erase my name, which spiritually means destroy spirituality. You want to bring peace between a husband and a wife, destroy the spirituality. I don't care about the spirituality. Destroy the spirituality that you think is, obviously there are rules and what that means, but as vis-a-vis the yardstick, yes, this is more important. The peace between a husband and a wife, or even a husband, a lousy husband with a lousy whatever, it's worth it. Hashem says, throw away my name. And that's also why Avraham Avinu's behavior bequeathed to his descendants the mitzvah of the red heifer. The red heifer is the same thing. The ashes of the red heifer, as we just learned, is all about total humility. Just like Avraham Avinu gave up his spiritual delight to help these Arabs who are idol worshippers, so too Hashem asks us to reach out to other people and to inspire them. But after all this talk about reaching out and outreach and helping other people spiritually, there's 2 more points that need to be made. Point number 1, Torah says that with the ashes of the red heifer, there were 3 things that were done. 1, they took those ashes and they used those ashes to purify all those people who were alive that were impure. They kept those ashes to do the main function of the ashes, to purify those who are impure. They took a second part of those ashes and they they preserved them for the next red heifer. There were 9 red heifers that were made in history, and the 10th will be made by Mashiach. And they put that aside for the future so that they can make the next one when these ashes run out. But there was a third section of ashes, a third preservation of the ashes, which was just l'mishmeres, just to be guarded. What does that mean? So what that means is that in addition to our efforts to help others, we also have to remember about our own spirituality. As it says in the Torah, don't ignore your own flesh and blood. Don't ignore your own self. Yes, it says in the Tanakh Rabbah, when you see someone naked, you have to give them clothing. You see someone naked of God's commandments, you need to dress them. You can't ignore them. But you also can't ignore yourself. You also have to pay attention. Don't sacrifice yourself in the name of outreach. Yes, there is a lot you could do for others, and yes, that's you should put yourself aside. Yes, but first of all, you can't do anything for others unless you maintain your own spirituality. As they tell you on the airplane, put on your own mask before you put on the masks of others. You have to have Torah. You're studying every day. You have to ascend in your observance of mitzvahs. You have to look at your own observance of Torah if you want to be successful in outreach. But besides success in outreach, just as God cares about, there was a speaker, what's his name? I forgot his name. He was talking about an encounter he had with this Chabad boy who was very despondent, very depressed about his own spirituality. And he told this Chassidic mentor, he said, I did all this. The only thing I feel good about is outreach. I feel good about putting on film with other people. I put on film with people. I feel like I'm now a mensch. I'm now somebody. He said, how many people do you put on film with? This guy asked him. He says 9. He says no, 10. You also put on film with yourself. Like that. You are also love your fellow like yourself. Meaning, you have to love yourself. You have to love yourself like Hashem loves you, and care about, and give yourself a hug, and realize that you are as a precious person too, that Hashem cares about, that Hashem wants to hug and kiss as well by giving us His Torah, which is compared to a kiss. and his mitzvahs, which are compared to a hug. So that's the Lishmeres. Put the ashes aside to be preserved, to remember that you have to remember yourself too, and you can't just be to sacrifice everything on the altar of outreach. And then there's another point. Why should I do all this stuff? Why should I do all this stuff? I mean, yes, this will purify other people, fine. But why am I meant to do this? Let's say I will keep everything else in the Torah. I'll even say Laman Tizkru, and I'll say with the appropriate accentation of the Zion, Lan Tizkru. I'll do it all the right way. I'll do everything. I'll have the best matzah for Passover. I'll do it all. But this thing, the outreach thing, just isn't me. It just, I don't like it. What will happen if I just take this part? I'll just delete this part of Judaism from my brownie points. It won't be something that I achieve in. I'll take this part out. This is just not for me. Says the Torah, this is the law of the Torah. As long as you're in your own eye, as long as you're in your comfort zone, you're not ready to give away yourself to help others. So you're not connecting to what Torah is about. You're not connecting to the essence of what Torah is. You're doing things which are Torah. You're putting on tefillin, you're keeping shabbos, keeping kosher. You want to get to the essence of Torah. This is the law of the Torah. You have to do this. This is something which is key to Torah. This is what Torah is about. Torah is about rising beyond the eye, getting beyond the eye, getting into your soul. This will get you into your soul. And that's why this mitzvah has relationship to Moshe Rabbeinu. First of all, when the Torah introduces this mitzvah, it says, bring the cow to Moses, to Moshe Rabbeinu. Why to Moses? Moses didn't do it. Moses wasn't involved in creating it. And even more, the Talmud says that all of the red heifers are called the red heifers of Moses. Why of Moshe Rabbeinu? Why of Moses? He wasn't the high priest at the time. And the answer is because Moshe Rabbeinu was all about humility. As it says in the Torah, that Moshe said about himself, what are we? Moshe Rabbeinu, his self-effacement is what connects him to this mitzvah of the red heifer. And in a similar way, for us to be able to do this kind of pushing ourselves aside, reaching out, really, truly, and do it the right way, it's through our connection to Moshe Rabbeinu, the Moshe of our time, to our Rebbe. This is how we get in touch with our soul in a way that we're ready to do, to give of ourselves, to help others, and that will purify not just the other person, but also help us become face to face with our deepest self, with our soul. And so I want to share today. Hashem shall help us experience the 10th red heifer Mashiach will bring, and we'll see the purification of all the Jewish people in Eretz Yisrael, in Yerushalayim. We see this happen right now. L'chaim. Question? Okay, turn this up. A good day, Reb Beryl. Good day, Reb Zev.
So I saw on the
You got to listen.
so I saw and I have reference to my computer to a video that just appeared on the internet a month ago